The dust has officially settled on the 2024 SEC football season, and bowl season is upon us. But we are here to hand out some hardware in the inaugural SEC Unfiltered Football Postseason Award Show. Everything you can think of, from Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Best Moment, everything in between. We have got it here for you guys. Again, appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. I'm Chris Phillips. He is Dave Shumate. He is Cole Thompson. Again, thank you all so much for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast, wherever you get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. And, of course, as always, brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com, use promo code SECU at sign up to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 or more lineup. And guys, do not forget, of course, college football still in full swing with the playoff bowl season upon us. You can also play college basketball, which is rolling, and the SEC is dominating, and they have NBA, NHL, anything you can think of. You can get it over at Prize Picks. Again, prizepicks.com, promo code SECU to get your $50 bonus today. Again, this is the 2024 SEC Unfiltered SEC Football Postseason Award Show, the inaugural edition. We are excited to have you along with us for the very first of its kind. Again, I'm Chris Phillips. He is Dave Shumate. He is Cole Thompson. Gentlemen, good morning on this Sunday morning, and excited to recognize some of the SEC's best in 2024 and hand out some hardware with you, gentlemen.
Well, why don't we get trophies made, man? We could have mailed them to these football offices, got them to take pictures of them, just pure branding.
It's not too late. It's really not.
Just get a picture of Cole. Or
They'll accept it.
Sure, of Cole, just a picture.
It's a trophy of a bear. It's the golden
it's a bear trophy. There we go.
Yeah, if it wasn't a bear, we'd be doing it. You're right. What was I thinking? You're right. Thompson Tech Bears. But no,
Thompson Tech Red Wolves. You guys just call me the bear. We have a bear.
He's
mascot.
like Auburn. He's the Red Wolves, but he's also the Bears. He's also probably something else. So.
I'm the most war eagle type of thing for the Tigers that has ever existed. That's what it is. But hey, we're excited. SEC Unfiltered Reward Show. There's a lot of things that we have today. I was at the forefront of getting these awards out there. We have countless awards that are going to players that deserve it. There are going to be some players that are flying under the radar. There are going to be some names that you probably did expect to be here, and they were here. And I promise you, Randy Etheridge in the comment section, there is no Texas hate. In fact, there is only Texas love when it comes to me. But we kick off the award show with the number one award that goes to the greatest passer in college football. This, of course, is the Joe Burrow Award. The Joe Burrow Award goes to the number one quarterback in the SEC because Joe Burrow found a way to put up monstrous numbers in his successful 2019 season en route to winning a Heisman Trophy. So the award is named after one of the most dominant seasons we've ever seen from a quarterback in the SEC. You're going to catch a theme with a lot of these awards as well. I will start this off. I think we all know who is that dude for Cole Thompson. I think we all know who was going to win this award for Mr. Cole Thompson, the Bear himself, Ole Miss gunslinger Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart single-handedly kept the Rebels in games this year, led the conference with 3,875 passing yards, 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, ranked inside the top 10 in passing yards, completion percentage, passer rating, yards per attempt, whatever you could see fit. That was Jackson Dart. Dart Vader delivered time in and time out. He was a big reason why they were able to get a signature win over number 2 Georgia. And he's going to play one more game to end his Rebel career with monstrous numbers before he goes off and kills it in the NFL. So congratulations to Jackson Dart, my winner of the Joe Burrow Award.
Dave, we'll go ahead and let you go. We'll go across that way. By the way, I do want to shout out really quickly, Dave, before you go. Cole mentioned it, but again, these awards, when you hear the explanations, this is all Cole Thompson. So Cole sent this over to us over the weekend. I want to give a shout out to Cole. Again, that's why we're letting him moderate this, because this is essentially the SEC Unfiltered SEC Football Postseason Award Show, really brought to you by Cole Thompson to a degree. Yeah. So again, y'all give Cole some love. Drop some bears in the some bear emojis, baby. Some bear emojis in the chat.
They'll be portal heavy this year.
You're gonna be very portal heavy. All right, Dave. Who do you guys your Joe Burrow Award winner?
I'm gonna go Lenore Sellers.
Wow.
I'm gonna go the last back half of the season, really willing the team to victories. I mean, it wasn't even scheme, really. I mean, there were a lot of free blitzers coming on. I mean, we think about that off the Texas A&M game, the Missouri games off the top of the head. Without Lenore Sellers, I think South Carolina has a really good defense and lacks some playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. I think you probably drop another 2 or 3 games without him. I think at the end of the day, he put South Carolina in that playoff discussion when they finished 9-3. I feel like we got a lot of things to be excited about with him in the future. Like his back half of the season, which is wild to say because you would not have said this in the first 2 to 3 games, which again, to be fair, he's getting his feet wet. But once he kind of settled in, got comfortable in the offense, got comfortable with who he is, he carried that team down the stretch to a 9-3 season and a playoff contender. So I'm going to give it to Lenore Sellers from South Carolina.
Guys, when I look at the Joe Burrow Award, again, Cole, you've defined it as the top quarterback in the SEC who represented his team as that dude on Saturday. So not necessarily the top passer, but just who was that dude. My mind went one place, and that's Diego Pavia. I just, all things considered, expectations for Vandy coming in. I know down the stretch, obviously, he kind of fell off because I think the injuries kind of finally got to him. Defense has started to figure out that Tim Beck offense a bit. But, I got to watch Diego Pavia in person, and obviously we'll never forget the Alabama upset there in Nashville. They also beat Auburn on the road. I just think when you think of a guy that – and also, too, guys, when I was looking at this, and this goes for a few of the awards, I was looking through the stats, and I was like, the performances of some of these players this year was about as inconsistent as some of the results. Like, there wasn't just that clear cut. There wasn't a Joe Burrow, right? And that's not a shot at anybody. It's just the league was really tough this year. There were a lot of good players. I feel like it's even harder to decipher some of these awards, who should be on top for each. But I go Diego Pavia. He was the leader of that Vandy team. He revitalized and I think changed that program from the inside out. So I'm going to go Pavia for my Joe Burrow Award winner.
Next up, congratulations to all of our winners. You will have your awards coming in the mail very soon. The Emmett Smith Award. The Emmett Smith Award goes to the college football top running back in the SEC, who was the bell cow of the offense. I think that we all have the same answer here. I think that there was only one right answer, so I will speak for him. Dylan Sampson, come claim your title. Literally, the reason why Tennessee is in the college football playoff is because of its defense and because of its ground game. You could guarantee over 100 rushing yards, 1 touchdown, 15 carries, 7.5 yards of play whenever number 6 touched the football. He carried this team in multiple games, including a comeback win against Florida in overtime. He put the team on his back in the Alabama matchup. He was the bell cow bruiser of the SEC, finished with over 1,700 rushing yards this past season. 1,400 rushing yards this past season, 5.8 yards per play, 22 touchdowns, 256 carries. This is the definition of I do it all. I'm putting my team on my back and carrying us into the next round.
Yeah, I thought they needed an RB2 to step up this year, and I still think 2 things can be true at once there. Yeah, he did carry the load. He was the offense. He was the most consistent thing they had all year, really, from the team outside of the 10 defensive linemen they rotate. But, yeah, the offense, again, as sluggish and clunky as it could look this year, he got them to the finish line, and obviously with their first playoff date in Columbus across the board. Chris, I'm assuming you're going to say the same thing. If I had to go somebody else, I feel like this was the one you're unanimous. Probably Rocket Sanders. If I had to go somebody else here, but I'll give it to Cole said. I think Dylan Sampson's the pretty 2 + 2 = 4 answer here.
Yeah, Dylan Sampson's the hands-down easy winner here. Over 1,400 rushing yards, nearly 1,500, 5.8 yards per carry, 22 touchdowns. As Cole was highlighting, so many of his stats. You mentioned, I think, Rocket Sanders. Maybe Jaquindon Jackson, a sneaky pick, 16 rushing touchdowns. But, yeah, it's easily Dylan Sampson, man. Again, he was the bell cow. And you don't see that a lot, I feel like, in today's college football, a true bell cow running back. That was Dylan Sampson. And, again, I remember talking with Dave. You mentioned, there were 3-4 weeks left in the season. We felt like, man, is this the week? You got to find RB2. There's no way you can ride him again, 30, 35 carries. And give credit to Sampson, man. He just kept showing up and taking the beating and had one hell of a year. And we'll see how he holds up in the playoff. But as Cole said, that's why they're there.
Hey, give the trainer a tip of the cap of that as well. I'm sure the treatment on Sundays were hell.
Yeah.
Number 6, you're going to see your award very soon coming up to Knoxville. All right, the Slim Reaper Award. Much like Devonta Smith, this is the SEC's top wide receiver who made every catch look easy, stepped on up for his quarterback on any given Saturday. Guys, I had a late addition to the party. I thought this was going to be a really easy call for me, but then I went back and looked at the numbers, and he played on a terrible team, but he was the human highlight reel. Ladies and gentlemen, the Slim Reaper for 2024 for Cole Thompson. Mississippi State wide receiver Kevin Coleman. Kevin Coleman finished number 2 in the SEC in receptions with 74. He finished top 5 in receiving yards with 932. Top 10 in yards after contact at 16.2. He also had 6 touchdowns on the year. And in every game, you could guarantee he was getting 6 receptions, anywhere between 80 to 115 yards. He was one of the best receivers. And here's how crazy the numbers were. And when I look back at it, at Mississippi State, the next closest receiver in catches was Kelly Akari with 28. The next closest receiver in receiving yards was, I believe it was Holman. I think he had 400. So there was a clear separation, very similar to what we saw last year with Xavier Legette at South Carolina, where he was the offense. Get the ball in Kevin Coleman's hands, stud. And now he's going to be a stud for the Missouri Tigers. My Missouri Tigers in 2025. I cannot wait to see him out in Como, but this is my Slim Reaper Award winner for 2024.
I'm going to go a sleeper with him. It's probably, I don't know, this could be a deep rim cycle type sleeper pick here. Again, I think in a year we talked about it, that there wasn't really a dominant wide receiver in this league. I mean, we saw Ryan Williams come on early, but then he ended up, as you can tell, I'm probably not picking Ryan Williams, but ended up leading the league in drops. It's tough for me to give that to you. I'm going to go to a guy, again, this is not a non-playoff team, but they were in the conversation at the end. Their true wide receiver one was out all year, and they needed somebody to step up for them. I just like the kid. I remember him in his recruitment process. I'm going to go Jordan Watkins from Ole Miss. Thought he stepped up for him in the middle of the end of the year when Juice Wells was dealing with his nagging injuries and whatnot. Couldn't really get it going. Trey Harris had been dealing with a nagging injury a lot. Jordan Watkins had some groin issues and stuff, but he was kind of their consistent guy. Cole mentioned Jackson Dart at the beginning for the Joe Burrow Award. I think the Slim Reaper Award, it's random. But again, in a year where there wasn't a true wide receiver one in this league, I'm going to give it to him from a consistent threat. I wanted to go Ryan Williams, but you look at the numbers down the stretch, maybe hit a little bit of a freshman wall. But I'm going to go Jordan Watkins, a little bit of a sleeper pick.
Guys, Slim Reaper for me. And again, I look at the definition of the award. Guy who could make every catch look easy, stepped up any given Saturday. Mine may be a little bit more obvious, but a guy I saw multiple times this season in person. I'm going to go Kyron Lacey over at LSU. I just feel like at any given Saturday, he could be the best player on the football field. And I was there in person for that game. In Baton Rouge against Ole Miss. That was a night. Again, he had that touchdown catch in overtime. I watched him at South Carolina in week, what was that, 2 or 3, I believe, make some incredible catches. It just, at any given moment, I felt like, and I know their offense was inconsistent, and even Lacey to a degree was, but I believe he led the SEC in touchdown receptions with 9, just shy of 1,000 yards. Any given moment, Kyron Lacey was able to make the circus catch and really just, I feel like, separate himself as the best player on the field. I'm going to go Kyron Lacey from Baton Rouge.
Congratulations to Kyron Lacey, to Jordan Watkins, and to my main man. We all know it. We all know that I am 100% correct when it comes to this one. It's Kevin Coleman. But let's go on to the Brock Bowers Award. Why we call it Brock Bowers? He's only been in the NFL for 1 year. Dude set records. Dude is a 2-time John Mackey Award finalist and winner. And he was the entire offense last year for Georgia, which is why, again, the award is named after him. Literally no one is ever going to dominate in the way that he did in the SEC, but this is for the best tight end. Ladies and gentlemen, it may have been screwed over by the All-SEC rankings. He will not be screwed over in the SEC Unfiltered Award show. It is Texas tight end Gunnar Helm. Absolutely no questions asked. This man led all tight ends in the SEC in receptions, receiving yards, ranked second in yards per play, second in touchdowns. He also ranked first among SEC tight ends in catches per game at 4.1. Whenever a guy like Arch Manning needed to step up, he got a guy in 85. Whenever Quinn Ewers needed to move the football, he got a guy in 85. We didn't see it in the SEC championship game, but how many times do we go back and we watch as Gunnar Helm was making plays as a blocker, was making plays in the open field, was helping this offense take that next step forward? I got to give it to him. This was a guy that was not on my radar at the start of the season. Thought he would be a quality tight end number 2. He eventually becomes tight end number 1 in the SEC. He is my Brock Bowers Award winner.
So it came down to 2 for me, but I'm going to lean what Cole just said. I'm going to go Gunnar Helm overall. Thought he was more of the complete guy. But when you watch the games on Sunday, I would say who was incorporated in the run game a little bit more. Again, didn't get a lot of passes down the field vertically. But Robbie Oots was the other guy, randomly enough, kind of H-back, fullback guy considered in this spot. But I'm going to go with Cole here. I think this award, the Brock Bowers Award, is going to go to Gunnar Helm. I agree. I think he helped them underneath from a passing standpoint. Like Cole said, led all tight ends in receptions. Thought Eli Stowers came in and did a good job within his scheme. So we didn't really have a dominant tight end this year. We had some guys who fit their roles nicely, but I'm with Cole. When push comes to shove, I'm going to take Gunnar Helm here.
Yeah, I like Eli Stowers a lot over at Vandy, guys, but I'm also going to go Gunnar Helm, and I think it's crazy he did not get the first team All-SEC nod. So, again, seeing Helm in person a few times, Also, too, we're talking the Brock Bowers Award. Like, the guy looks like Brock Bowers 2.0 to a degree. Doesn't quite move like him, but just has that same type of build, if you will. And when I watch him, it's like you can kind of see that, some of the traits, we'll say. So I'm going to go Gunnar Helm. I feel like this answer is pretty easy.
Gunnar Helm. The award will be in the mail very soon. The Gargantuan Award. Much like a Jimmy John's sandwich loaded to the brim with a bunch of crap, the award goes out to the best offensive line in the conference. Case in point, this one was hard.
This was a tough one.
This was hard. But I went back and I looked at the numbers. Who gave up the fewest pressures? Who gave up the fewest sacks? Who gave up the fewest tackles for loss? It was LSU. LSU was number one in the SEC in fewest tackles for loss, fewest sacks allowed, fewest pressure rates against Garrett Nussmeier. Multiple times they stepped on up to deliver opportunities for Garrett to be able to throw downfield. They were making plays. The run game was pitiful this year, and the execution was pitiful this year. But you still got to make sure that your quarterback stays upright. How many times do we go back and watch performances from LSU this past season where Garrett Nussmeier walks off the field in the fourth quarter and his jersey is so clean that you could eat a 5-course dinner off of it? That is because of protection from the 5 men up front. It was a great performance from Will Campbell, great performance from Emory Jones. I think both will be standouts in the NFL. When you look back, even though the rushing attack was horrendous at times this year, the offensive line did its job making sure that Garrett Nussmeier had time to throw. That, to me, is the Gargantuan Award. Go ahead and claim your title down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
I'm going to go as a complete unit. I'm not just going to look at the top 5 here. Because like y'all said, I think all of these offensive lines this year and all the offensive lines in college football this year have holes in them just due to lack of continuity, and just the position in general is just a lack of development right now. I'm going to go with the unit that, again, is overall probably their top 6 to 8 guys because they had injuries. They played some of the best defensive fronts in the conference. And I think they overcome a lot of adversity. And Stacy Searles, the offensive line coach at the University of Georgia, kind of had to manipulate that a little bit. They had Tate Ratledge out for a while. Even his first game back, came back from the tightrope surgery, then had flu-type symptoms. I think Georgia just overcame a lot this year, and they plug and played across the board 6 to 8 different guys. Was it always pretty? No, but I got to give them outside the top 5 because, again, when you're recruiting, building a roster, you're not just going to play with 5 offensive linemen the whole year. It's inevitable. I can only remember literally the past 15 years, Missouri last year had the same starting offensive line for all 12 games, that's unbelievable. You almost got a better shot of winning the lottery. So this unit, 6 to 8 across the board, wasn't always pretty, but they got the job done, got to the finish line, and won the SEC championship. Tip of the cap to Stacy Searles and his Georgia Bulldogs on that offensive line.
Dave, I like the Georgia answer a lot for the points you made. I'm going to go a little bit of a different direction, though, kind of go off the wall. And I know, guys, that Texas was in the running for the Joe Moore Award, but I'm going to go a completely different direction. We've talked about him as a bell cow back, but he couldn't have done it without his offensive line. I'm going to go Tennessee. I know they were inconsistent, but they all were. I mean, like Cole said, this was extremely difficult. I mean, even Texas, you feel like, with all due respect to them, they played a dominant defensive front twice, and, we kind of saw what happened. So it's like, well, I just feel like with Tennessee, they were leaky at times. I mean, I saw them in person in Fayetteville, and that was one of, Lance Hurd's worst games. Obviously, he made the highlight reel for the wrong reasons on social media for a few weeks. But for the most part, this offensive line and this running game leading the conference 232 yards per game was the thing that also, again, has gotten them to the college football playoff. The only other game besides that Arkansas game was at Georgia, which – that was kind of a night. Georgia's offensive line came to life and really showed out in that game. So I don't know, man. I'm going to go with Tennessee. Again, it was an up and down year for offensive line play. I think we all agree line play is not what it used to be because of, as Dave said, portal development, et cetera. But, I think Tennessee is one that, again, has literally and figuratively paved their way to this point in the playoff. And I think they came on strong of late. And I think also, too, did a pretty good job in protecting Nico this year. I think overall, I don't feel like I saw Nico running around for his life on a weekly basis. So I'm going to go with the Vols.
Well, you can go ahead and vote also. We're going to have the chapters add in later on and go vote.
Yeah, let us know in the comments who you would pick.
Who is your award winners? But LSU, we got Georgia, we got Tennessee.
3 different ones. That kind of goes to show the theme of the offensive lines being all over the place because there's like 5 or 6 you could pick, but it doesn't feel like there's one right answer with that one.
Next up, the that guy award? Now, what does this award exactly mean? It's whenever you talk to your friends and you see someone make a play, you go up and you bring up his stats and you go, really? That guy? Like, just flies under the radar throughout the entire season. Nobody brings him up in conversations for being elite. And you know what? He ends up being really, really good. For me, I've been talking about this guy all year. This cat has been awesome. He has been literally the most underappreciated player in the SEC for 2024. And it's Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden. When you look at Matthew Golden's numbers in 2024, he ranks top 13 in total receptions. He ranks top 15 in yards allowed after the catch, top 15 in touchdowns. I mean, top 15 in receiving yards, top 2 in the SEC in touchdowns with 8 every single time inside the red zone that Quinn Ewers need a big time play. There was number 2 as the number 1 receiver last week in the SEC championship game, over 132 receiving yards. He has stepped on up, and we don't talk about him the way that we talked about Trey Harris. We didn't talk about him the way that we talked about Arian Smith. We don't talk about him the way we talked about Luther Burden or Dante Thornton. And he was making plays left and right. He finished with better numbers than every single one of those guys. And it just felt like, why are we not going to have him be more involved? Why are we not putting him in the same conversation for all SEC accolades? The most underappreciated player in the SEC for 2024. He's getting his appreciation today. Go ahead and give me Matthew Golden as, oh, that guy? Yeah, he's that guy.
Yeah, Cole, I like this award. It's one of my favorite ones to do because it got your brain thinking. I don't really think there's a wrong answer. Mine came down to 4 guys. Thought Xavier Sorey from Arkansas did a good job. He could have been in the Georgia transfer. Chris Paul was another backer that I thought, you can be honest, Mississippi State's Isaac Smith could be in this as well. He's just on a bad team. Then it came down to 2, boys, and I think you could split hairs. I hate doing this. I was going to have Michael Taft as my guy, and then you got the safety from Texas. But you know what? In a position on the back end where this team struggled, we knew they would be good in the front 7. But I think how good this guy was, had some key plays for him down the stretch. I think it's helped push this team to a playoff opportunity that they'll have in Columbus, Ohio. Give me Jermod McCoy, the corner from Tennessee, transfer from Oregon State, the best corner they've probably had there. He's definitely the best secondary guy that they have there. He's not Eric Berry. I'm not saying this Tennessee fans. Just probably since Eric Berry when Lane Kiffin was there in 2009. It just hadn't been a good secondary really in a long time. But no, I think Jermod McCoy was a difference. Had a big interception against Alabama, kind of turned that game around in the end zone against Jalen Milroe. Give me Jermod McCoy. But I like this category. This is a good one, Cole. Got the brain thinking there. And I knew we'd be all over the place. But I got to give Jermod McCoy this award as the most underrated player in the SEC.
Dave, I like that selection. That's actually one that I looked at. I also did look at Poop. Also did look at Xavier Sorey. I feel like kind of, Dave, you and I are great minds think alike. But I'm going to go a different direction here. Somehow, some way, this guy didn't make an all-conference team. I feel like he was overshadowed on his own defense because of so many other standouts, so many other stars. I mean, guys, the SEC Defensive Player of the Year was on his defense in his front 7. I think y'all know where I'm going with this. But I'm gonna go with Jelon Kilgore from South Carolina. I just, again, he wasn't even the most talked about defensive back in his secondary. It was always Nick Eamon-Warry kind of getting that look, deservedly so. But this kid, 46 total tackles, had 4 interceptions on the season. And when you watch him play, again, the guy's last name is Kilgore. Emphasis on the first half of that name. Dude plays with a mean streak, a tenacity. He's a ball hawk. He's a headhunter. And again, I just think when you talk about South Carolina's defense, especially, and how great it was and the success, I really do feel like that's one when you mention that name, you're like, oh yeah, that guy. When I watched South Carolina play, I saw him flying around, or maybe you didn't even realize who it was, but you're like, who's 24 out there? Oh yeah, it's Jelon Kilgore, a guy that I think you could argue against should have been an all-conference player. So a lot of great defensive backs in the league, but Jelon Kilgore for me is kind of that dude that, again, I don't even think people would point him out as, they may not even point him out as the second or third best player on that defense, but when you watch him ball, I mean, he is a straight-up baller. So I'm going to go Jelon Kilgore.
I do want to give a quick shout-out to Michael Taft, the safety at Texas, another name that was very close on my list, but eventually just decided to go with somebody that stuck out a little bit more on the offensive side. Next up, and we got 2 more years with him award. We got 2 more years. Like, he was incredible. SEC top freshman. You get him for 2 more seasons. You know that he is going to be a baller. This was only the start. There was a multitude of ways we could go offensively, defensively, but I'm looking at a guy that played less than 50% of reps on defense this year. And he finished top 10 in tackles for loss, pressures, and sacks. Ladies and gentlemen, and we got 2 more years of him. Give me Colin Simmons, the pass rusher from the University of Texas. This kid comes on in from Duncanville, has to split reps with Ethan Burke, with Trey Moore, yet every single time he is on the field, He is a headhunter in the backfield to go ahead and pile drive a running back or a quarterback into the ground. Finished number 6 in the SEC with 8 sacks. Finished number 11 in the SEC with 12 tackles for losses. Number 14 in the SEC with 41 pressures. Every single time he was winning one-on-one battles because they simplified the defense for him, stepping on up, deliver a quick strike, get in the backfield, bring that son of a bitch down. I cannot wait to see what he provides for Texas moving forward. You got 2 more years of him in Austin. I'm very excited to see what Colin Simmons can provide for this team.
Yeah, Cole took the words right out of my mouth. I was going Colin Simmons. That's who I'm going to go as well. Don't have to explain anymore. Just, again, love the young edge rushers in this league, so it will be exciting to see them for another 2 years, as Cole mentioned, but will not be a good thing for the offensive lines in this league. But I agree with Cole. I'm going to go Colin Simmons as well.
Are y'all really going to leave me with a low-hanging fruit?
Yes, we are going to leave you with the low-hanging fruit.
I'm going to mention 2. I feel like I'm cheating doing that. So maybe I'll do an honorable mention here. My honorable mention is going to be Dylan Stewart. I can't believe nobody said that. I mean, all due respect to Colin Simmons. To me, Dylan Stewart was the best freshman pass rusher in the conference. Dude's an absolute freak. Obviously, just got his bag to come back as he deserved to do. I'm going to go a different direction, though, because this was actually my number 1 answer. I wrote this down because I thought one of you two would take Dylan Stewart. So I just want to make sure, because we're not getting more than 2 more years of Dylan Stewart. That's just it's not happening. Guys, I'm going to go a different direction. I'm going to go DJ Lagway.
Yeah.
We've got 2 more years of him. And I do think he's going to be a 3-and-done kind of guy. And maybe he'll come back. We'll see. You never know with these guys in the NIL world. But, DJ Lagway, a guy that I don't know that we really expected to see a bunch of, with Graham Mertz being Florida's starting quarterback. Obviously, he gets hurt. I feel like the way Lagway, and give Billy Napier a lot of credit, give everybody in that locker room, that team, that program a lot of credit for holding it together and having a 7-win season. I don't think we've been talking about that enough. But I feel like Lagway was that shot in the arm for the offense. I thought he really came on as a young guy at the hardest position to play in sports. So I'm going to go with DJ Lagway, again, helping them down the stretch, beat LSU, beat Ole Miss, beat Florida State. They went through that quote-unquote murderer's row that we thought over the summer, there's no way Florida wins 1 or 2 more games. Heck, before he gets injured in the game against Georgia, they're tied with 4 minutes to go. I mean, I think a lot of us would say that it's a good chance Florida wins that game if DJ Lagway doesn't get hurt. So, young guy, a young cat that I'm excited to watch 2 more years of. Man, DJ Lagway at Florida is going to be special.
So the fact that you didn't take Dylan Stewart was why I didn't take Dylan Stewart. I thought one of you two was going to take Dylan Stewart. I had him written down as my dude.
The biggest snub thus far.
I'm so ashamed of myself because I would have kept him if I knew he was taking Colin Simmons. I switched him at the last second. The Chris Doering Award, a player whom nobody was talking about this offseason, like Chris Doering when he came on in at Florida, but becomes a household name that you cannot wait to see moving forward en route to a breakout career with his current team. Guys, I did not think that this player was going to have as good a stats as he had in 2024. I figured he was going to be a 3rd wide receiver, maybe a 4th wide receiver. There were so many other players that I thought would step on up in a room that is known as quote-unquote wide receiver U. But LSU's Aaron Anderson really impressed me in 2024. Finished top 10 in the SEC in receiving yards, top 10 in the SEC in catches, top 10 in the SEC in receiving touchdowns, top 15 in yards after contact. More importantly, top 7 in yards per game. Whenever Garrett Nussmeier needed a big-time play, number 1 was there. The 4th and 5 against Ole Miss sticks out like a sore thumb. They go to overtime. They get the win because Aaron Anderson is able to find his way into the end zone, runs a vert pass. I cannot wait to see the dynamics of this unit continue to build in 2025. Now we know that the sophomore is going to have his senior quarterback back in action. I think he's going to take over as wide receiver 1. I will not be shocked to see him take on the Biletnikoff if he continues to build off his success.
I'm going to go on the defensive side of the ball. You can tell I'm a little defensive biased. Like a lot of my awards have been defensive guys. But I'm going to go Bray Hubbard from the University of Alabama. Again, Devontae Smith went out. They had to move. Malachi Moore wanted to move to safety at the beginning of the year. Someone needed to fill that Husky position on the back half of the season. Had 3 interceptions, I believe, in 3 straight games. He's actually from my hometown of Ocean Springs, Mississippi. His dad was a basketball coach for us. Did a really good job, I thought, coming in, playing his role, communicating on the back end. Again, am I saying this guy's a first-round NFL draft pick? No. But I think it's somebody we can see kind of be the anchor on the back end of Alabama's defense as we continue to move on. Obviously, you see Devontae Smith entering the portal. So Bray Hubbard's going to get all the opportunities in the world. And then he went out and stepped up as well when Keon Sabb went out for the year. So I think Bray Hubbard stepped up big time at the end of the season for Alabama when they were getting pretty thin on the back end, and we knew that going into the year. So Bray Hubbard, congratulations on your Chris Doering Award, brother.
A guy that I feel like came out of nowhere that, guys, not only did he become a household name, and I think he'll continue to do so, but he developed his own nickname. That's the Honky Badger, Whit Weeks over at LSU. Again, Harold Perkins was the guy being talked about in the preseason, and what were we going to get out of Perk, and how do you use him? And obviously, unfortunately, he goes down with the injury, but man, Whit Weeks. I mean, again, the dude literally made a nickname for himself, the way he was flying around on a week-in, week-out basis. And I think Whit Weeks is going to be a guy, obviously, LSU fans and Blake Baker continue to look towards going into next year beyond. The Weeks family, well represented down in Baton Rouge with, I believe, his brother and I think maybe another brother.
I think it's a cousin.
Yeah. The
someone.
Weeks are taking over, though, the LSU, which, by the way, fun fact, I found out his dad played at Georgia. So that was kind of interesting. He grew up a Georgia fan, visited Baton Rouge, and hey, don't let them down on campus in the Bayou because they ain't coming back. So Whit Weeks, the Honky Badger, my winner of the Chris Doering Award.
The Tommy Cassanova Award. This is the greatest defensive back in SEC history, according to many people that I've spoken to. This is going to the top defensive back in college football for 2024. I'm going to get a lot of pushback on this one. I can already just tell you I'm going to get a lot of pushback back on this one. But I look at the entire process, not just interceptions, not just pass breakups. I look at everything. And while I do believe the Thorpe Award went to the right candidate, for me, the Sebastian Casanova Award, South Carolina's Nicky Manwari. This was far and away, in my opinion, the best safety in the SEC. He was an enforcer on the back end. He constantly was making plays left and right. He led all safeties in tackles this past season with 74. He ranked in the top 3 in tackles in the SEC. Top 10 in the tackles with the SEC. He led the SEC in interception yards. He was tied for second with the most interceptions. He was tied for first with the most pick sixes. 89.3 coverage grade by Pro Football Focus, 1 point lower than Jahdae Barron, the same amount of missed tackles as Jahdae Barron, and he was a pick 6 away from having all the accolades in every single format. But unfortunately, Kyle Kennard decided to hit a quarterback that was a legal play, and the entire officiating decided to say, nope, you know what? That's just too illegal. Should be in the college football playoff because of Nicky Manwari. He's not going to get the respect that he deserves at the national level, but he will here on SEC Unfiltered. He, without question, is the winner of the Tommy Casanova Award. Congratulations to Nicky Manwari.
I'm going to go Jahdae Barron. I thought the back end of Texas was their issue last year, but they brought in some key pieces there across the board. I thought Jahdae Barron got better across the board. Obviously brought in Makuba. We talked in Michael Taft, who's a very close-knit secondary. I think it's why Texas, I think, has been the most consistent defense all year in the SEC. Granted, you can say it's the schedule, whatever, but I think Texas's defense across the board was the most consistent week in, week out. I think it started on the back end. We knew that had to improve, and it started with the leader, kind of the bell cow of that back end. I'm going to go Jahdae Barron there. Very impressed just every week there. I mean, you going back to the Georgia interception, the Arkansas game. I thought he had a very good showing this year. I'm going to give it to the 5'11", 200 senior from Austin, Texas. Congratulations, Jahdae Barron.
This one is tough. It's because I feel like this award, it's one of the two guys you guys have mentioned, but I'm going to go with Cole and go Nicky Manwari, South Carolina. I feel like every time, you watch the South Carolina game, this dude was running one into the end zone to pick 6. I mean, every single time. And what he does in the run game as well, and a very physical safety. Nicky Manwari made himself a lot of money this season. So I'm going to go, again, Jahdae Barron was fantastic. I'm not saying I think the Thorpe Award, deservedly so, Jahdae Barron won it, but man, I think Nicky Manwari's big play ability, not just, the interceptions are nice, but as Cole was mentioning, like what he turned him into, I feel like with the interception yardage, and it started early on in the season at Kentucky when he had the pick 6. You think about the Oklahoma game, they put that one away within the first 5 minutes, a lot because of him. And to Cole's point, the biggest one that didn't count, the Garrett Nussmeier pick that would have been a pick 6 and obviously would have secured them in the playoff, at least all things remaining constant otherwise. So, yeah, I think either one of those guys is a correct answer, but I'm going to give it to Nicky Manwari too. I just think that dude was as big play as anybody in the league this year.
Honorable mentions, Gerard McCoy from Tennessee and Andrew Makuba from Texas. Just want to give them a quick shout out as well. Michael Taft, a very also deserving honorable mention. Let's move over to the Derrick Thomas Impact Trophy, the SEC's top linebacker who makes an impact on the game's outcome and probably an indent on a player's skull. This one was easy for me. Guys, he led the SEC in tackles for losses. He ranked top 5 in sacks this past season. He ranked number 2 in tackles this past season. 8-0 is here to stay in Austin, Texas. Anthony Hill Jr., come on down and receive your award. Literally the face of the Texas defense, play in and play out, stepped on up massively last year as a freshman, carried that on over into a leadership role for 2024. He is the backbone of what Johnny Nansen and Pete Kwiatkowski wants every single time that you see a play. Number 0 is force feeding that head into the line of scrimmage. He is making stops left and right. I cannot wait to watch him in 2025. This is LB1. This should be the favorite for the Butkus Award. I love everything that he provides. He is a full 3-down player. He is a thumper. He plays well in coverage. He is not afraid to make open field hits. He is a human highlight reel and a human piss missile. Cannot wait to see what he does in the playoffs this year.
We'll go Jalen Walker. I think he coached by the best inside linebackers coach in the country. He did win the Butkus Award. I'm going to go across the board there. Got better as the year went on. They kind of had some holes there in the middle. C.J. Allen and them. I'm going to go Jalen Walker. He had really good games against Texas, one of the better offensive lines in the country. I mean, the Butkus Award finalist agrees with me on this. So I'm going to go with him as well. I'm going to keep this one pretty simple.
And Cole, I think you mentioned it. Ant Hill, 8 sacks on the season. But I'm going to go with the rival. Go Danny Stutzman at Oklahoma. His team wasn't very good, but the only thing that held that team together was the defense, and it was Stutzman in the middle. Over 100 tackles on the season, left a legacy there in Norman. So I'm going to go Danny Stutzman as my guy.
Congratulations to all involved. Would throw in also Torian York as a potential honoree and Debo Williams from South Carolina. Okay, the Myles Garrett Award, the SEC's top pass rusher who made QBs cry and OT shit themselves at the line of scrimmage. I think that we all know who is going to be the winner of this one because he's probably going to win multiple awards moving forward. It's South Carolina's Kyle Kennard. This man was such an impact to South Carolina. There are very few ways that we can talk about him without saying first-round pick, All-American, All-Pro, superstar, probably the most deserving player that's not going to be in the college football playoff that should be in the college football playoff. Led the SEC with 11.5 sacks, finished second in tackles for losses with 15.5. He also had the number 1 pressure rate. He was the highest graded pass rusher by Pro Football Focus. And whenever number 5 was on the field, offensive tackles had no idea what to do with themselves. This, my friends, is a 3-down human monster coming for your quarterback, taking his lunch money, and then saying, piss off on his way to the end zone. I love Kyle Kennard. Cannot wait to see what he does on Sundays. He was a Saturday sensation in 2024.
Yeah, it's got to be Kyle Kennard. It's almost like, what was my guy Jeff Collins doing over there in Atlanta? How'd you mess this up? I mean, this was like 2 + 2 = 4. And also, he made players better around him. Let's be honest. Yeah. Dylan Stewart was good because of Kyle Kennard. If you're getting doubled, that's where I think Dylan Stewart could get in trouble next year. He's not going to have help on that other side when he's going to have to take on those doubles. And Kyle Kennard did that this year. So give him credit. Not only did he do things himself, he also made his teammates and stuff better around him. So I think that gives him – I think this one's pretty easy.
Yeah, it's hands down Kyle Kennard, guys. My only question is this. Was there a better eval than from the portal than Kyle Kennard? Because, I mean – to your point, Jeff Collins, Dave, how did he miss? But, Kennard wasn't this guy, was he? Unless I missed that?
No,
I don't think he was. So, I mean, I give credit to Shane Beamer and Sterling Lucas, Travian Robertson, the defensive line coach, who, again, I've got a lot of respect for and relationship with Clayton White, the defensive coordinator.
Taylor Edwards.
Taylor. Give everybody in that staff credit because, again, when Kyle Kennard was signed, it was like, okay, solid pickup. He's got measurable. But, I mean, the eval on this kid too, and I think they were also. I think the staff was also surprised too what they got from him this type of season. But
sure.
Man, that was when you talk about portal pickups and maximizing a kid, I don't know who else did more of that than Kyle Kennard. So yeah, this one's easy, guys. Anytime you're talking about Jadeveon Clowney's sack record being challenged, that's all you've got to say.
Moving on to the Tubby Wilson Award. Now, why do I call this band Tubby Wilson? Because when I was playing NFL Street growing up, we would always have a 400-pound player lined up in the backfield at running back, and his name was Tubby Wilson. He did everything. He would play offensive line. He would play defensive line. We would put him at wide receiver. Nobody could tackle him. He was awesome. And so I named the award in honor of Tubby Wilson. This can go to an offensive or defensive lineman. It has to be a big boy. It has to be one of the meat potatoes type of guys that does not get the type of respect. And I'm going to go with the dude that did everything for this offense on fourth down. He was also fantastic at the line of scrimmage. JJ Pegues, come claim your Tubby Wilson Award. Top 15 in tackles for losses, top 15 in sacks at 3.5. And on fourth down, where did Lane Kiffin go? To Henry Parrish? To Trey Harris? To Caden Priestcorn? Nope. He went to 38. JJ Pegues, go ahead and pile drive it forward. If only you got one first down against Florida, we'd be talking about Ole Miss going to the college football playoff. He has as many touchdowns as several wide receivers that are on Ole Miss's squad because they just knew how to properly utilize him. Give me the fat man touchdowns 10 times out of 10. JJ Pegues, you are the Tubby Wilson Award winner for 2024.
Just don't run stretch plays with him, huh? They get him north and south.
Just go north and south, man, and you're in the playoff.
I'm going to go with the best, I think the best overall offensive lineman in the league this year. Maybe I'm going to go Tyler Booker on the interior offensive line of Alabama. I thought he was very consistent week in, week out. I thought Alabama probably could have established the run a little bit. Obviously, that's not Tyler Booker's decision, though. I thought they could establish that. But when they did, when they factored in Jalen Miller, I thought the interior of that Alabama's unit with Booker, Brailsford, and Jaden Roberts was really good all year. But I think Tyler Booker holding that on. He's one of the captains of this team. I think Tyler Booker, I'm going to give him. I'm a big fan. I know Cole Kublik's a big fan of him, too. I'm going to go Tyler Booker. Just you watch it every week, and you're like, yeah, it's consistent week in and week out, even if the guy to his left or right wasn't doing their job. So Tyler Booker, congratulations on winning your Tubby Wilson trophy, as Cole Thompson says.
Yeah, Tubby Wilson trophy. I'm going JJ Pegues as well. Just not just what he did on the defensive side, but again, you definitely earned brownie points with me for big man touchdowns. My honorable mention, I'll say Cooper Mays at Tennessee. I thought he was a guy that we talked so much in the preseason, how important it was for him to be that anchor, and I think he served as that. Again, first team All SEC honors, but I'm going to go JJ Pegues, man. This one feels like an easy one.
Let's go to the excuse my language, I have to say this properly. Kicker! The Kicker Award! Naturally, this goes to the SEC's best kicker, goes to the best call that was ever made by Gus Johnson. It flies under the radar 10 times out of 10. We probably all have the same guy, but I'll start this off. Peyton Woodring from Georgia, come claim your title. 20 of 22 kicks made this past year, including 3 of over 50, a 55-yarder as well. He was near perfect on yards per attempt. Everything that you saw from Peyton Woodring, he kept this Georgia team alive in multiple instances. There were multiple games that when you look back without his points, Georgia actually plays a little bit too close for comfort, or they lose outright. So go ahead and give me Peyton Woodring. Congratulations on being the Kicker Award winner for 2024.
Look, as bad as I don't even think there was a great kicker in the league. There's like some dominant kicker. I mean, I think a lot of us thought Bert Auburn may take that step, but he went the opposite route. I'm going to give Kentucky something. I'm going to give him – I mean, I know he got first team. Again, I feel like I'm a pretty good evaluator across the board. Not a kicking expert. A lot of these special teams coaches in the country aren't kicking experts. I'm going to go with Alex Rayner just because I was like, you know what? He did have the best numbers, 93%. Only missed 1 extra point all year, scored 71 points, 15 to 16, 4 for 4 from beyond 40. I mean, 40 plus. The guy was 6 for 6 on the year. I'm going to give him credit, long 55. Let's go Alex Rayner. Again, trying to get the Kentucky Wildcats on the board in this award ceremony. Have we hit every team yet? I don't know. I feel like we've hit a couple. Maybe by the time we get to the awards, we will. But I'm going to give – if there was ever a time in their 4-8 season to give them something, let's give it to the kicker. So let's go Alex Rayner. Congratulations. There will be some kind of trophy heading to Lexington.
Should we get somebody else on the board, too, since we're going to be playing that game? I'll go Randy Bond from Texas A&M. He was pretty good this year. 19 of 22, 42 of 42 in his extra points. His long was a 55. I don't know, pretty consistent. He looked 7 of 9 from 40 to 49, 2 of 3 from 50 plus. Again, that 55-yarder. Just shy of 100 points in the year at 99. Made just over 86% of his field goals. So I'll go Randy Bond from the Aggies. I know they speak really high on him when I was down there in College Station. So
next up, and this one is very near and dear to my heart. This is one that I wanted to make sure was named properly because of what he embodied for the world of college football. This is not just an SEC award. This is for knowing that his legacy will live on here at SEC Unfiltered, and it should live on in Atlanta. Hopefully the college football playoff committee, hopefully the college football community does what's right. This is the Mike the Pirate Leach Award, named for the SEC Coach of the Year. Rest in peace to the greatest improviser on words and rambling on nonsensical crap that we ever heard in this industry. There's multiple guys that we can go with here, but I'm going to go with the dude who set a standard back in July at SEC Media Days, called out every single media member, said, we know that you're going to put us at 11th or 12th. He beats to his own drum. It works out in Columbia, South Carolina. They have 4 ranked wins on the year against AP opponents. They were a game away from making it to the college football playoff. They're a game away from having a 10-win season for the first time in his tenure. Shane Beamer, I'll run through a wall for you. I'll defend your name with honor. I will sign on up to play tomorrow morning for you if you offer me a spot on the roster. Go ahead and claim your Mike the Pirate Leach Award.
I'm going to go Clark Lee.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we underestimate how hard it is to win at Vanderbilt. Not any factor in the transfer portal era. Any year a Vanderbilt coach gets to 6 wins, and much less at the beginning of November. I think they got to that and had numerous opportunities to get more. I don't care if a team wins outside of a national championship. That coach at Vanderbilt, whoever that is, it happens to be Clark Lee now, should win the coach of the year. I mean, made coordinator changes, had to fire some of his buddies, promoted himself to DC. Obviously brought in Tim Beck, Pavia, the whole crew from New Mexico State. So give him credit for making the necessary changes in a big year for him. Had some epic wins across the board. Just beat the entire state of Alabama. So I got to go Clark Lee.
Yeah, this one's interesting, guys. I think you can go a few different directions here, which, Shane Beamer's a great answer. I saw a lot of Georgia fans that were trying to defend or say that Kirby Smart should have won it because number one, strength of schedule, and I guess some of the adversity Georgia went through and to still win the SEC championship. And I understand that, but I'm right there with you, Dave. I got to go Clark Lee, Vanderbilt. And I said this weeks ago. I felt like he was the hands down easy decision, deserved to win. Again, I think Shane Beamer at South Carolina, certainly you can make that argument.
Yeah, I think Billy Napier, you could make a case at the end of the year. I mean,
yeah, the way he held, I think the way Napier held that team together again to get them to 7 wins, guys. I think if you'd have told us over the summer they were going to get to 7 in some of the games they won, we would have probably said he'd win it. But guys, again, you really, and I know you guys have been, and sure many of you in the comments as well have been, but like when I got to go to Nashville and went to a Vanderbilt game for the first time, and you talk about the challenges of winning there, but you get a much greater appreciation when you go in person. And there's construction everywhere, and it's a 27,000 seat stadium. The NIL challenges, the historical challenges. Yeah, for Clark Lee to do what he did this season, to win 6 games, to beat Alabama, to beat Auburn on the road, to some of the epic wins like Dave was talking about, I think you really just have to appreciate how freaking hard that is. So I'm going to go Clark Lee at Vanderbilt. What a year by him. What a job he did. Taking over the defense, by the way, was probably one of the best decisions that of any coaching staff made over the offseason because that defense, I felt like at times it looked night and day different. Clark Lee of Vandy, man. What a year. I think well-deserved.
Next up, the Rod Bramblett Award. Much like for the Kick 6, legendary call that will live in infamy for college football and for the SEC. One play that truly defined college football in 2024 in the SEC. I had a lot of options here. This was really challenging for me, but I went with my gut, realizing that this is the moment where things started to change, and I think a new era of football was born out at Willie B. The 2nd and 4 shovel pass to Rocket Sanders for a 15-yard touchdown, down by 4 after giving up a touchdown pass to Luther Burden. The way that atmosphere, the valley shook inside of Willie B, and everyone knew we have a chance. We have a shot at making it to the college football playoff. That was the maturity, the growth, everything that you want to see from a guy in Lenore Sellers to take that next step forward, putting his team in great position to now win out and go to a college football playoff. To me, that is the play that stands out most. Honorable mention, though, Zion Young getting the strip sack against Oklahoma to run it on back with no starting quarterback in Brady Cook. That, to me, my friends, is absolutely an honorable mention, but I got to give it to Rocket Sanders with the 15-yard touchdown against Mizzou.
I'm going to go the play. I think it changed. I mean, it knocked the team out of the playoffs, too. I think this play kind of put the hammer in the nail of the game. It was in the 3rd quarter, Alabama, Vandy. What do we got about? Looked at it. 2:53 left in the 3rd. 4th and 1 from Alabama's 36. Clark Lee, Tim Beck decide to go for it. Alabama's kind of got some momentum here at this point. I think it was a 1-score game at this point. This put them up. I think this put them up. Bama was down 2 or 3. It was the 4th and 1. Diego Pavia to Junior Sherrill. Just the missile that hit him right in stride. And that's where I feel like if you really ask Alabama, Vanderbilt people, anybody watching the game is kind of like, yeah, oh my God, Vanderbilt's going to win. I think Vanderbilt has a real shot to win this game. Like, I think that was it till that most people were kind of like, all right, Alabama's going to pull this out at the end. But when they went up 9 to really kind of start the fourth, it was like, yeah, I don't think Alabama can get off the field here. Ballsy call by Clark Lee, Tim Beck, knocked Alabama out of the playoffs. If Alabama wins that, they're 10-2. They're in the playoffs. I think that's kind of the play I remember from this evening. Obviously, Gunnar Stockton scoring and the goal line of the SEC championship games won. But there's one that had just in my head that just moment, and it had the major impact down the line of how it affected the college football playoffs and Vanderbilt going to win 6 games, getting to a bowl. I'm going to go that 4th and 1 call at the end of the third quarter, Diego Pavia to Junior Sorrell.
Guys, this one's fun because it's interesting. As I was trying to think about this morning, I was struggling because I was trying to identify like one moment, but obviously talking with you guys, it's like all of a sudden it all starts coming back, right? Going through the weeks of the season. And there's double-digit number of answers I think you could put here. Dave, you mentioned Vandy upsetting Alabama, and I was going to say, and I'm gonna go a different direction because you said that, but I wasn't going to go one specific play in that game. I was going to go, the best moment was when the students took the goalpost down to the Cumberland River and dumped it down there, and that was just such a poetic college football moment. This one's interesting for me, guys, because selfishly being at all these games, that also helped shape my moment. I'm going to go one that you guys haven't said, though. And again, there's so many. I mean, I think you could say, honestly, Carson Beck coming in for the final handoff in the SEC title. That was just so like movie type of script ending to the game. And he's got a bum wing and he hands it off, whatever. But the moment I'm going to go, Ryan Williams, the touchdown catch against Georgia. The dramatics, I know that was such an early season game, and it obviously didn't end up, equating to a college football playoff appearance for Alabama, but just that game in a vacuum, that play after Georgia goes down, takes the lead, and Ryan Williams, for the struggles that he had, Dave pointed out, led the league in drops, he turned into him that play. That was the play that, like, made Ryan Williams, where you're like, this dude is different. And, oh, by the way, he's 17, if you forgot. But that play, being there in that building, again, I'm biased because I was there. That was unreal, man. So, best moment of the season, Ryan Williams turns into him, puts Alabama ahead for good, and gives Bama the win over Georgia in Tuscaloosa.
Next up, the Cam Newton. Now, I want to name another award after Cam Newton because this is, for my money, the single greatest season we have ever seen from a quarterback that joins a program fresh out of the transfer portal. So I figured, let's just name this award after him, top transfer in college football for 2024. Kyle Kennard's the easy, low-hanging fruit. That's the easy one. But do you still think that there's an opportunity to go 8-4, maybe 9-3 without Kyle Kennard in South Carolina? Probably not. I would say 7-5, 8-4 feels more likely. I sure as hell can tell you there is no shot in hell that Vanderbilt goes 6-6 without Diego Pavia. This, my friends, is the Cam Newton Award winner. In 2024, after proving to the world that he could win at New Mexico State, marching on in and beating Auburn at Jordan-Hare Stadium, completes 59.2% of his passes for 2,100 yards, 17 touchdowns against 4 interceptions, adds another 716 on the ground, 6 more touchdowns, a passer rating of 141.3. He also gets upset wins over Auburn for a third time against Hugh Freeze, the upset of all upsets against Alabama, and he keeps things interesting against Virginia Tech, bringing his team back from the brink of elimination in week 1. That's a team that finishes 4-8, 5-7. We're talking completely different about Vanderbilt without Diego Pavia. Diego Pavia, we get to see one more time. Baba Yaga, I wasn't going to forget about you. You, my friend, are the Cam Newton Award winner for 2024.
Yeah, I think it's got to be Pavia, especially if it's like named after a quarterback. I mean, who else would it be after Cam Newton? So I think Diego Pavia is the pretty 2 + 2 = 4 answer here.
Well, Dave, for me, 2 + 2 is going to equal 5.
Now, I want to see the work of this math. Let me see the work of this math. Where did you skip?
Listen, the derivatives and I don't even remember algebra like that, to be honest with you. But 2 + 2 = 5 for me. I'm going to go a little bit off the wall. Hey, and the reason is Diego Pavia already won my Joe Burrow Award. So I want to kind of divvy these up a little bit. To Cole's point, Kyle Kennard, the low-hanging fruit. But I'm going to go a different direction. This one feels really off the wall because this man, he wasn't the leader in any of his categories. He didn't lead in anything. but he had 5 touchdowns in the 2 biggest games of the season for the Georgia Bulldogs. That's Trevor Etienne. That's who I'm going to go with. I just 3 touchdowns in that first matchup against Texas in the regular season. He had 2 touchdowns in the SEC championship, including the one to put them over the edge and to win that football game again. I'm not saying necessarily, I think one of the most impactful, again, this one's a little bit off the wall. I'm going 2 + 2 = 5, as Dave would say. But when you look at Trevor Etienne's impact, it wasn't consistent. He dealt with injuries too. But again, the 2 big games against Texas that you had to win, 5 total touchdowns, just shy of 200 yards rushing. The kid showed up and played his best when they needed him. So I'm going to go Trevor Etienne for my Cam Newton Award winner.
One of the greatest running backs to ever grace a college football field, one of the greatest athletes to ever grace our lifetime, the Bo Jackson Award. This will go to the SEC Offensive Player of the Year. I've already named him. Let's be real. Tennessee is not in the college football playoff without Dylan Sampson. Tennessee is built off of number 6 being that dude. And I don't care that he won running back of the year. This man, I want to see in the playoffs. I would have been furious if somehow Tennessee was left out because of they could not get in Dylan Sampson. He has earned the right to claim I am him in the SEC. He did everything. 1,400 rushing yards, 141 receiving yards, 22 touchdowns, 5.8 yards per play. Everything about this kid just was workhorse mentality. I am the alpha. I'm not walking away without some hardware. Absolutely. He plays like Bo, acts like Bo, deserves the respect like Bo for 2024. This is my Offensive Player of the Year, the Bo Jackson Award winner. Goes to Knoxville, Tennessee's native, Dylan Sampson.
I'm boring here a little bit, guys. I'm going to go with not the stat sheet here. Again, this guy already got an award for me, but I'm going to go with guys like Dylan Sampson wouldn't be able to get this stuff done if it wasn't for the guys in front of him. I'm going to go Tyler Booker again. Give him the award. He will be – I'd be shocked if he wasn't a first-round draft pick at this point. We're talking to people. The most consistent offensive lineman in the league. Give me Tyler Booker from an offensive standpoint again. I thought for somebody – I mean, we look at all the skill guys, the quarterbacks at times, we do forget about the guys who keep things going up front. One of the leaders, where's the captain? Phenomenal kid across the board and had a good season as well.
Giving the Bo Jackson Offensive Player of the Year award to an offensive lineman. There are a lot of SEC O-line coaches that are watching this that are like,
they're tearing up right now.
That's my guy right there. Like, Dave is how about it? Give some respect to the big uglies up front. I'm going to go Dylan Sampson too, man. I'm just, again, a year in which I don't feel like it was as clear-cut as some other years where there was a Joe Burrow or a Cam Newton or even a Jaden Daniels. But Dylan Sampson, man, just stood tall above the rest in my mind. Like when you think of that guy, that dude, who was him offensively, it's Dylan Sampson. He put his team on his back, and that's why they're in the playoffs. So Dylan Sampson, to me, that's the easy answer in my mind.
Let's go to the Reggie White Award, one of the greatest defensive players to ever make a claim in college football. Went on to have an epic career at the NFL level. Rocky Top legend, but I'm going to the other UT. I didn't forget about him. I knew he was going to come up eventually. Jahdae Barron comes on in and is the anchor for this Texas defense in 2024. Leads the conference in pass deflections, leads the conference in interceptions with 5. Also had 82 return yards. Every single time he needed to make a play, there he was. Number 7 was flying around the football field. He almost got the biggest play of the year in the SEC championship. One quick block, and he is off to the races for a pick 6. Texas claims its first SEC title in year 1. I love everything about what Jahdae Barron stands for. He deservedly earned the right to claim himself as a Jim Thorpe Award winner. I want to give Nikki Emenwari love. I can probably tell you, where I'm going to go with this last pick. So let me go ahead and give Jahdae Barron love. Defensive Player of the Year belongs to Jahdae Barron down in Austin, Texas.
This got to be Kyle Kennard, right? Kind of changed that whole team, came in, got developed, won the Nagurski Award. Like an edge rusher there, obviously affected. Obviously, Cole said Nick Emenwari as well. Jahdae Barron, I think, is certainly a good pick as well. I'm going to go Kyle Kennard, though. I mean, best defensive player of the year. I think Walter Nolan maybe could be in that conversation as well. Ole Miss's defensive line or defensive front. But I think Kyle Kennard is the obvious answer to me.
Yeah, Kyle Kennard, South Carolina. I just, again, to everything Dave said, we've talked about him a lot. I know with the SEC named him the SEC Defensive Player of the Year, and I think they got that one right. Kyle Kennard for me, easy answer.
The Herschel Walker SEC Player of the Year. Herschel Walker, one of the greatest players to ever grace the SEC, absolutely deservingly of the Heisman, probably known as the best running back to ever play in college football, at least in the 80s. Some would argue that he's the greatest player in college football history, and I won't argue that much about it. But this goes to the SEC's top player. Offense, defense, special teams, clutch factor, X-Dog mentality, and you guys already named him, which is why I want to make sure that I save the graces for him. It's Kyle Kennard. Kyle Kennard is the single reason why when you look at South Carolina, they are a play away from going to the college football playoff. They were in every single game. Dave brought this up. A young player like Dylan Stewart benefited from having number 5 because the double teams were going towards his side of the football. How Jeff Collins let this man leave Atlanta, Georgia. How Georgia didn't go across the street to land a guy like Kyle Kennard for their defensive front is mind-boggling to me. Top 5 in tackles for losses. Top 5 number 1 in the SEC in sacks. Number 5 nationally in sacks, top 3 nationally in pressures. And this is where you look at the culture of Cola. You look at what is Willie B. You want players like Kyle Kennard. They're going to come on in. He won the Bronco Nagurski Award. Absolutely deserved it. He should win every single award for a defensive player. I want to make sure that I got Jahdae Barron on this list at some capacity. So I got to make sure that I give the best player in college football for the SEC in 2024 without question. Belongs to Kyle Kennard.
Go Diego Pavia, SEC Player of the Year, most valuable.
Wow.
I know it's not most valuable player, but in my head, I'm kind of triggering it to that. So I think we've talked about it. If Nate Johnson's the quarterback who's fine, the Utah transfer, they don't get to 6. I think he was the most impactful guy who had the most impact on his team, where if you take him away, I think there is a drastic drop off. I'm going to give it to Diego Pavia just from his will, just the X factor, willing his team to victory. Again, I think some teams started figuring them out a little bit towards the end. He was probably a little bit more banged up than even himself, and Clark Lee wanted to lead on. So give him credit, putting that team on their back. I think Diego Pavia, a phenomenal addition to Clark Lee's Vanderbilt team. It's a reason why they're going to a bowl game.
Guys, there's the low-hanging fruit. There's the very obvious answer. There's the answer I had written down on my sheet here, which was Dylan Sampson at Tennessee. But I'm going to go a different direction because we've given him so many awards, and a guy that I haven't mentioned yet, this is a little bit maybe a sleeper, the Herschel Walker SEC Player of the Year, and an emphasis on Nick Saban would show respect to. Give me Lenora Sellers at South Carolina. I just – the way he came on second half of the season, 6 straight wins down the stretch, going into your arch rivals building at Clemson, scoring the game-winning touchdown with about a minute to go. I just, the way the kid plays the game again, and you think about too, we don't give enough credit to, yes, Rocket Sanders was a massive addition, was worth every penny for them. But what Lenora Sellers did essentially with, let's call it for what it is, one of the weaker wide receiver units in the entire conference and making everyone around him better, an offensive line. I just feel like he made that entire team better, especially down the stretch. Led them to some big wins. I mean, who can forget the night against Texas A&M? Again, you beat Clemson. Cole mentioned the dramatic win over Missouri, snapping a 5-game losing streak to MIZ. So Lenora Sellers, I think not just because of the caliber of player, but the way he plays the game, I think that's a guy that Nick Saban would probably tip his cap to. And I'm going to go Sellers for SEC Player of the Year.
And the final award for the 2024 SEC Unfiltered Award Show. We had to name something after him, didn't we? I mean, he won every single award and every single national championship whenever he played in it. It's the Nick Saban Award. This is basically the best team in college football. This is the team that Nick Saban would love to coach. He would fire the other guy in his place. That way he could come on in, win one more national championship. And I think just showing the adversity, being able to win games in sporadic fashion, how you responded after a loss, I think speaks volume. Down now the count. And when you throw on the darkness surrounding this man's eyes, nobody wants to mess with Kirby Smart. It's Georgia. Georgia was able to find a way to come back down against Texas. They were able to find a way to make things interesting against Alabama on the road at Bryant-Denny Stadium. They were able to pulverize in the second quarter and moving forward against Tennessee, which was a top 10 game. They didn't allow Georgia Tech to complete its mission after being down in the fourth quarter, 8 overtimes later. Resiliency. Every single time that you think about this, the way I view this team is it's like, imagine in Game of Thrones, if you just watch Obed Martell actually kill the mountain. Just instead of wandering and having his long soliloquy speech, he just kills the son of a bitch. And then he walks away a champion. That's how I feel about the Viper. This was a Viper strike from Georgia all season long. They get the number 1 seed in the SEC. They get the number 2 seed nationally in the college football playoff. They were resilient. They survived. And now they have a shot at winning a national title with potentially a backup quarterback in Gunnar Stockton. This, to me, is the Nick Saban team of 2024.
I mean, they have the trophies. I don't even know who else we could argue with this. I mean, honestly, I think people underestimate the adversity they had to overcome. They were banged up all fall camp. I think Kirby Smart made that an intention. Hey, we're going to be physical in fall camp. And for a lot of people who don't know, there's not a lot of tackling. There's not a lot of physicality in college football right now in practices. There are a handful of teams that are like that. And there's a couple of those teams that are in the college football playoff, and you see why. But Kirby took the front end. We're going to be physical in fall camp. They got banged up a lot, as you saw it. Tate Ratledge out for a while. Obviously, he got hurt against Kentucky. They had injuries across the board there. Somehow surmounted, just continued to overcome it. Cole mentioned the injury to Gunnar Stockton. I mean, they played a whole second half with the backup quarterback against a good Texas defense. Granted, it wasn't like they were just lighting Texas up, but still, he kept them ahead of the chains, got them to win. Yeah, I think we factor in Georgia's strength of schedule, everything they had to endure this year from just an injury standpoint, guys stepping up when they had to. Yeah, I mean, it's a no-brainer, Georgia.
Yeah, Cole, Dave and I were talking off air about this, kind of joking, saying, well, if you don't pick Georgia, who you gonna go? You're gonna have dog fans all over you. But I mean, listen, it's because it's well deserved. And again, being there in person in Atlanta, shout out to all the great dog fans. It's fitting that I have this right here. The easy answer is Georgia, because them dogs is hell. Them dogs is hell, man. Again, when you look at Dave hit the nail on the head, the adversity they overcame, and dare I repeat myself yet again, but you could just count on it every turn in a big moment. And Texas found it out the hard way that Kirby motherfucking Smart was going to show up and get his team ready to go. And it was kind of poetic how both times going into both Texas matchups, it just seemed to happen. I can't believe both of you fell for it again, by the way, just on a side note. But no, anyways, it's got to be Georgia. Again, it's the more things change, the more they stay the same, guys. And even in a year where college football was crazy, there were upsets abound. At the end of the day, when the dust settles, it's the Georgia Bulldogs standing atop the mountain. Again, Nick Saban would love to coach that Dogs team, and Georgia, top team in the SEC, absolutely.
There you go. So congratulations to all of our award winners. Make sure that when you do end up coming back and watching this video, whether you're watching live, whether you're watching later on, make sure that you vote. Let us know in the comment section, who do you think is the award winner for all of these? We're going to have the chapters added up in a little bit, so you get to actually pick which one of us was right. Were we wrong on all of them? Why were we wrong on all of them? But congratulations to all of our SEC Unfiltered 2024 award winners. And just remember, we still got college football ahead. We got bowl games. We got championships. We got playoffs. We got 3 teams to pull for. We're excited. We're only getting started. And real quickly, before we get on out of here, there's over 300 people watching right now. Make sure that you like the video, hit that ring notification, and make sure that also you hit the subscribe button, because we have content bleeding out the eyeballs over the next several days. Transfer portal news is dropping left and right. We got previews coming out this week for bowl games. We got previews coming out this week for the college football playoff. We got a lot to discuss, so make sure that you hit that subscribe button. That way you're keeping up to date with everything that we got going on the channel moving forward.
Hey, all the award winners, take a picture of your trophy that is a bear and tag us at SEC Unfiltered. I'd like to see the trophies there, Chris.
Yeah, we'll get those sent out, get those delivered. A lot of deserving winners. Again, what a great year. It's crazy to think the 2024 college football regular season is officially in the books. We turn our attention now, as Cole mentioned, this week, bowl season, college football playoff. It's officially here. Make sure you stay tuned to SEC Unfiltered for all your breakdowns, previews, predictions, etc., everything in between. So again, guys, appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you, Cole. Thank you, Dave. Make sure you follow these guys at Mr. Cole Thompson, at Mach 10 Sports, and of course, I'm at CPhilly19. Until next time, appreciate you all tuning in. Have a great rest of your Sunday. We will talk to you all on the other side.